joining me on Facebook and on YouTube. Now, this morning I want to reflect on the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14, and it says that the Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Now, while it sounds simple, the reality is that we may do the opposite. Where we fight to hold our peace, and in the end, we try to fight with the Lord and with everybody else. And recently I know how it feels because I've been going through some things. See, it all started when the pandemic brought everything to a grinding halt. I found myself using my husband's iPad to live stream church and other services from our living room couch. And eventually, I had to learn how to tape edit. I had to learn about lighting. I had to learn about sound. I had to learn about uploading content. I had to learn a lot of different things and different skills on how to deal with social media and how to run church from social media. And while I'm somewhat tech savvy, it did take a lot for me to step out of my comfort zone because I'm just used to being in the back, being quiet, being shy. And in April of 2020, another monkey wrench entered the picture. You see, I noticed that when I was in the passenger seat, when my husband was driving, that when he'd make a left turn, he started to veer over into the other lanes. And, sometimes, I was wondering like what's really going on. But then after one time we almost hit a car and I brought it up and he simply told me, oh, it's nothing. It's nothing big. Just leave me alone. It's all right. Everything's good. But see, by August, my suspicions were confirmed when he had to have back-to-back eye surgeries. And, it was to fix his loss of vision. And see, I panicked because I didn't know what was about to happen because he was running prayer and Bible study, preaching and teaching Sunday school since March of 2020. And he was doing a lot of the stuff by himself. But, I jumped in. And I ain't gonna lie, I struggled. I found myself caring for my husband, dealing with helping him start a new job, dealing with all the restrictions that made it challenging to go to pastors, doctor's visits, and I had to go across town, and you weren't allowed in the office, so I had to sit in the hot car. And Starbucks, you couldn't just go sit in Starbucks wouldn't let people sit in. It was just really no place to go. So I'm sitting in a hot car waiting for him to come out of the doctor's office or go to surgery, deal with that. And on top of that, I had to start running the services, and there was 8 of them that we were having a week, and numerous late nights that went along with studying the word and preparing for this. And I failed, especially after one morning of 3 hours of sleep. I had my rollers in my head. I was on the prayer line, and the next morning, I had got my rollers out, but I forgot to put my sweater on and had to put it on while I was in the air. And after that, I tried to learn how to use OBS and what other options could I have, and I was ready to throw my computer out the window. But eventually, I found a program that worked, and it made my workload a little bit easier. It didn't take away the preparation, but it made running everything a lot easier. And I kept on going. And even when I asked my husband if we could cut things back to 30 minutes, and he gave me a firm no, we set it for 1 hour, and we're going to do it 5 days a week, and this is what we're going to do. And even though we weren't having people on the line all the time, and I had to find myself filling that time and feeling this, it was kind of that I started to let resentment start to build, and it started allowing my peace to go away. And then I kept going because I didn't want to wimp out. And then with each complaint or comment, I tried to smile and fix it, but it was still in my peace. And I had gotten better, and then we went back to in-person. And this in-person experience taught me that we need to value and respect those who work in social media as a church. That's a calling. And so many times our young people go out into the world and they're editing videos and they're doing stuff for their rap albums and they're doing all those things, and all that talent is being gone from the church because we don't always value what technology can bring. We don't value what change can bring. And then there was so much labor that goes on behind the scenes. I respect it because you got to get your scripts and your graphics, and you got to babysit the computer. When the 4K footage that got shot, it grinds it to a halt because you're trying to edit and do stuff, and your editing software is crashing because the 4K footage is just a little too much for it to handle. And I believe, I know the first time when I had that experience, I was up all night. I had a whole case of Red Bull that I went through, or when nothing was working because the software was starting to update. And there are so many components that even a simple tech setup, and at that time we were leasing space, so there was no option where I could just leave everything and get a permanent setup. But no, everything had to go home with me. And a lot of times you have to smile when you're like, oh, do you need help with that? Or you hear the up-team comment, oh, you really got a whole lot of stuff with you today. And you're like, kind of look, all this stuff is needed to run this so we can have live streaming, so we can do this. And then you grin and you bear it for Jesus and you try to hold your peace. But as much as we hold it in, there's times when you realize you just held on to it so tightly that you didn't even really notice your peace was unraveling. You didn't really notice that your peace was falling out. It's like sand slipping through your fingers. You're holding a handful of sand, and you keep walking, and eventually you open up your hand, you realize there's no more sand left, and that's where your peace goes. And in my case, I noticed that it's been almost 2 years, and I finally got a small sense of balance, and I'm starting to get a little bit of peace restored. I was able to, make things and put things back in order. Then there was a whole school that just got started. And I thought it was going to be okay. I can handle this. I can work in 2 hours on Zoom, and I'm going to be at home, and it'll still enjoy my unwind time, because I have my unwind time. I like to watch Law and Order, Organized Crime with my virtual peeps, listen to their comments and their things, and it just makes the episode really good, and it kind of lifts the mood up, and I crack up and I laugh real good and just take a break from everything. But then the plans had changed, and like a game of Jenga, when the unlucky stick gets pulled out, I could no longer hold on. I just began to unravel. I resented that for the next 2 years I was going to be losing another one of my moments, and that I hadn't had a single day when I wasn't engaged in something for church on top of what I was ministering in an environment where I was hearing, no, you can't do this, or you're not getting the support you need, or we can't give you this you need, or why do you need that, or getting pushback, And I realized that I needed to fight for my sanity instead of letting the Lord fight for me, and I came out of order, and I said and did some things that I wasn't representing Jesus all the way. And I took the Lord's boxing gloves. I was ready to be out there in the streets. I was ready to be for the streets, because I felt there was no peace to be had anymore. And I just wanted to fight just to get some peace back. And in hindsight, I wish I would have done more. I wish I would have taken time out for self-care, that I would have taken time to go, get my hair or my nails done, or go get a manicure, get a pedicure, get something done. I wish that I wouldn't have lost all my hair because I kept it in braids too long, because it was easier for me just to get up and throw it in a bun than to try to comb it or do anything with it, or wear clothes behind a pair of sweatpants and a t-shirt and maybe dress out, go out, do something. And I wish I would have gotten more sleep, or I got someone to talk to. I wish that I would not stayed at home all the time out of a need to be there, or try to care for everything, or end up living in my family room because I was busy studying and editing and finding music and learning software and learning how to do this or that. I wish I would have gotten out of my house and taken more walks, or got some lunch by myself. I wish that I wouldn't have read a book for leisure sometimes, because I was always reading some biblical based book or studying scripture, because I wanted to keep with my husband. He's got 35 years of knowledge in the word, and it took a lot more for me to study just to be able to hold on and teach Sunday school, to teach prayer, to fill the time out. I had to put a lot of study in just to be able to keep going. And in time, I regret that I let my peace slip away. And I see that right now, when you don't care for yourself and the relationship you have with God, you risk not being able to hold your peace that you need to keep going. And so we know that we have to hold our peace, but sometimes we can't always hold our peace because we don't have any peace. And so we have to strive better. A lot of times we always think that we got to be martyrs for God. We've got to be working tirelessly, endlessly. And I had that mindset. And that mindset was detrimental. It probably helped kill part of my ministry. It brought to a lot of my frustration. It brought a lot of my anger. It brought a lot of my bitterness. It brought a lot of things. And so what we have to learn is we have to learn how to keep our peace, but we also got to learn how to care for ourselves so that we can have peace. And that's what my devotional is for today. Just to learn to that we need to let the Lord fight for us, but also we need to learn to fight for our relationship with God. Fight to have balance with the relationship that you have. Fight to have balance in your ministry. Fight to have balance in what you're doing and that you can do it so that you don't burn yourself out, and that you can be in joy. So I thank you for everybody who joined me today and was listening to my devotional, and I pray that you join me tomorrow.